Now before the SNK fans start to poke me with pitchforks, let me just very quickly say that I know what the true inspirations are for characters like Robert Garcia, Takuma, and Ryo Sakazaki. It is just uncanny on how these similarities played out. With that out of the way, the Karate Kid films with the addition of Cobra Kai are a staple of pop culture. While that might be the understatement of the century, it's important to note that pieces of pop culture become so big that they are referenced in other media. Enter Art of Fighting, a 1992 fighting game developed by SNK that served as another answer to Capcom's massively popular Street Fighter II. What does a fighting game have to do with the Karate Kid, you ask? Well, what if I told you that it's possible that the Karate Kid could have inspired some of the elements of this game? Did the Karate Kid inspire Art of Fighting? Before we get started, if you're not a part of the biggest Cobra Kai Discord server, you should fix that. Click on the link in the description to join the Discord server right now. It is the largest and most active Cobra Kai community on Discord with over 10,000 members. Who knows, you might find me and a few others you know in there. Now, for those of you who are familiar with my channel, more than likely you're familiar with the basics of characters of those seen in Karate Kid and Cobra Kai, but I'm going to treat this as a very short excerpt if you're new here or have never seen the Karate Kid films before. If you guys want to skip, go to this timestamp or the next chapter. The Karate Kid is about a teenager named Daniel LaRusso who, after moving to California, has run-ins with a fellow high school student named Johnny Lawrence, top student of the Cobra Kai dojo. Daniel finds a father figure in karate teacher and maintenance man Mr. Miyagi, and as he trains for his showdown with Johnny at the All Valley tournament, Daniel learns important life lessons through his training. Part 2 picks off right at the end of Karate Kid 1, where Daniel defeats Johnny and 6 months later accompanies Mr. Miyagi to his home in Okinawa to visit his elderly father. Mr. Miyagi also runs into his childhood friend and rival, Sato, who has a score to settle with Mr. Miyagi, and they also meet his nephew Chozen, who ends up having issues with Daniel. In the Karate Kid Part 3, after returning from Okinawa, Daniel is unknowingly manipulated through an elaborate plan of revenge by Terry Silver, war buddy of John Kreese, Johnny Lawrence's teacher, and Daniel has to learn to fight through fear when facing off against karate protege Mike Barnes. Art of Fighting is a game where Ryo Sakazaki and Robert Garcia, two students of Kyokugen Ryu Karate, fight through the streets of Southtown after Ryo's sister, Yuri, is kidnapped. It is revealed that Mr. Big, under the orders of crime lord Geese Howard, kidnapped Yuri in order to get Ryo and Yuri's father, Takuma Sakazaki, to cooperate. The final fight comes down to, depending on who you play as, either Ryo or Robert fighting Takuma dressed as his alter ego, Mr. Karate. Some notable features about this game is the introduction of larger sprites to compete with games such as Street Fighter II at the time. Art of Fighting also introduced the concept of the spirit gauge, where depending on how full the bar was, this would determine the effectiveness of a special move and if the character could perform it. If you taunt your opponent, this would cause their spirit gauge to go down, and you could charge your ki to raise your own gauge. I do have love for this game, simply because I do enjoy the lore just a little bit more in the SNK games than I would in Capcom games, and Art of Fighting has gone on to be relevant with elements appearing in games such as King of Fighters as either cameos or references, so clearly it holds importance with the SNK universe. Now with the introductions out of the way, let's go through some of the similarities I noticed in this game growing up. At the time of my first playthrough, I had only seen Karate Kid Part 2 at the time, with seeing Karate Kid Part 3 a few years after this. I was always intrigued by so many interesting similarities, primarily between Part 3 and Art of Fighting 1. I'm going to talk about the first one and get it out of the way as it's fairly obvious: Robert Garcia and Terry Silver. Now granted, I know that Robert was modeled after Andy Garcia and Steven Seagal, and I don't know if SNK would ever admit that Art of Fighting took some inspiration from Karate Kid, but some of these similarities are hard to overlook. Physically, of course, there's the slick back hair into the ponytail. One of the earliest scenes I went, oh yeah, that's definitely Robert Garcia, was when Mike Barnes threw Daniel out of the Cobra Kai dojo. Some of the early artwork of Robert really reminds me of Terry Silver. In terms of character profile, both are very wealthy, with Robert being the successor of the Garcia Foundation that his father Alberto started, and Terry Silver going on to become the CEO of Dynatox Industries and buying the original Cobra Kai dojo. Both men also have the hobby of collecting cars, which we can clearly see Terry picking out a car to use for his plan, and Robert not only collecting cars, but also producing futuristic concepts for them as well. Robert, like Terry, is a foreign practitioner of his martial arts style. Robert is the first foreign student of Kyokugen Ryu Karate, while Terry, along with Kreese, are foreign students of Tang Soo Do. Robert is a fiery smart mouth in the game, having a similar attitude and personality to what we see from Terry in Karate Kid Part 3, being very much of a smart mouth to Daniel and Miyagi, and being a bit fiery when Kreese comes to turn in the dojo keys. Robert would excel at his martial arts training very quickly, which would cause Takuma to train Ryo harder to keep up. Although it is implied that Kreese was a senior student compared to Silver in dialogue in Karate Kid Part 3 and in Cobra Kai flashbacks, Terry nonetheless had a much longer fight with Mr. Miyagi due to Thomas Ian Griffith's extensive background in Taekwondo. This could also apply to Robert, as he focuses more on kicks in his fighting ability and special attacks. In Karate Kid Part 3, we see Terry acting on behalf of Dynatox as a tournament sponsor. While there is no tournament in Art of Fighting, it's interesting to see that later on in crossover game Capcom vs SNK 2, Garcia Foundation is a main sponsor of the game's fighting tournament. And while we don't see an exact fit of Robert wearing what Terry Silver wears during the All Valley, it's very easy to see some similar outfits we do see from future games that Robert dons later on. Next, let's look at the other protagonist, Ryo Sakazaki. Now, as far as physical appearance, I don't know if I can say that Ryo has a resemblance to John Kreese outside of similar hairstyle. In future games, his hair varies from time to time, but in some of his early appearances, as we can see here, it is very similar to Kreese's look in Karate Kid Part 3. Compared to his counterpart Robert, Ryo is the more serious of the two, something we can obviously note between Kreese and Silver. Story-wise in the future, Ryo would go on to be the successor of Kyokugen Ryu Karate and become Mr. Karate 2. At this point, Ryo is older and takes his karate even more seriously than before, and this level of seriousness would be closer to Kreese's level in both Karate Kid and Cobra Kai. It should also be noted that Ryo's gi has gone now from orange to a dark blue, almost black color, similar to Kreese's black gi. After his mother's death, Ryo would go on to look after his sister Yuri at the young age of 10 after their father mysteriously disappeared, very similar to Kreese fending for himself after his mother takes her own life. Ryo's fighting stance is also very similar to Kreese's from the movies and Cobra Kai, depending on which game he appears in.
It should be also noted that during his win pose, Ryo will grab his gi in a very similar manner how John Kreese grabs his gi at times.
While we're on the subject of John Kreese, I think it's also worth pointing out a character that definitely does bear a striking resemblance to him, John Crawley. Crawley works directly for Mr. Big, making him an antagonist like Kreese, and is a former martial arts instructor for the US Navy, while Kreese was a US Army veteran and US Karate champion. Crawley is proficient with firearms, knives, and survival skills, something Kreese undoubtedly would be proficient in as well thanks to his own time in the Army. Also, it should go without saying that they have very similar names, John Kreese, John Crawley. A nice touch is John stages on a Navy aircraft with the helicopter in the background. While this may not directly reference John Kreese, it could be a reference to Martin Koe's portrayal of a helicopter pilot named Erickson in Rambo First Blood Part 2. For Mr. Miyagi, there isn't a specific character that shares any resemblance or direct elements. The closest would be Lee Pai Long, though the difference is that Lee practices Chinese martial arts and is of Taiwanese descent. Lee is a professor of medicine, similar to Mr. Miyagi being able to heal Daniel's injuries in Karate Kid 1 and Karate Kid 3. Like Mr. Miyagi, Lee is also shorter compared to other characters such as Ryo and Robert. Both men are elderly masters of their martial arts, as noted in their respective character profiles. The last character of interest I want to talk about is Takuma Sakazaki, aka Mr. Karate and the father of Ryo and Yuri. Takuma's personality is that of a traditionalist, which we could compare to someone like Sato. They both train very strictly as seen in the media that they are featured in, with Sato notably in Karate Kid Part 2. Takuma is also the Grandmaster of Kyokugen Ryu Karate, much like Sato forming his own brand of Miyagi-Do back in Okinawa. Specifically his unmasked appearance in Art of Fighting 1, he does share some similar features to Sato in Karate Kid Part 2. Now, outside of this, what makes Takuma and Kyokugen Ryu Karate so interesting is that they were based on a real person in fighting style, Masutasu Oyama, the founder of Kyokushin Karate. Not only that, Kyokugen Ryu also has some influence from another style, Goju Ryu, the very same style that Miyagi-Do is based on. Also, a side note, there are other notable video game characters whose fighting style was based on or influenced by Kyokushin Karate, namely Ryu from Street Fighter, Jin Kazama in Tekken 4 and onward, Jin Kujo from Virtua Fighter, and more. What's also very interesting are the bonus games themselves and the way they are laid out in this game. If we look at this from left to right, it's almost a clear reference to the Karate Kid trilogy itself. The first minigame is the bottle cut, something we see Mr. Miyagi in Karate Kid Part 1 do against racists who refuse to grab their bottles off of his car. The second bonus game is the Ice Pillar Smash, where after the player charges up their strength or focus for a set amount of time, they can successfully break the ice. This is very similar to what we see Daniel do in Karate Kid Part 2 in the bar that after focusing for a certain amount of time, he breaks all 6 ice. The final bonus game is where you have to perform the command for the Hao Shokoken 6 times. If done successfully, you unlock this super move in the game which comes in handy against your opponents. While we don't see anybody in the Karate Kid films throwing fireballs, this could be referencing to the Miyagi-Do kata Daniel learns in Karate Kid Part 3. There is a dummy that you practice this technique on, and this could also reference either the dummy Silver has Daniel train on, or the heavy bag Mr. Miyagi has at his dojo. Funny enough, we see Daniel perform the kata in 5 different scenes in the movie, or attempting to at least, very close to the 6 times you need to practice the Hau Shokoken to unlock it. Before I go, there's one more thing I need to talk about. How good is your connection's defense? If you don't have a secure encrypted connection, then there's a chance that your defense is as good as Mike Barnes. Click on the link in the description to get a NordVPN 2-year plan with a huge discount. Here's why you need to secure yourself with NordVPN. You can use it to unlock Netflix and your favorite entertainment websites that are not available here in the US. You can connect up to 6 connections at the same time with one account. There is no data logging whatsoever, and it works even in China. If you're out and about and using public Wi-Fi networks such as airports and coffee shops, NordVPN will protect you with double data encryption for increased anonymity. Think of it as the drum technique. The best block is to not be there. NordVPN works with Windows, Mac OS, Linux, iOS, and Android, has a Chrome extension which is very user-friendly, and unlimited bandwidth. If you're not happy with it for any reason, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. NordVPN also won the the Best VPN Award and Best VPN Awards for 2020 by one of the most trusted experts, VPN Mentor. It's also the only VPN to get all the green checks on PC Mag. So what are you waiting for? Use the link in the description to get yourself secured with NordVPN. Shout out to NordVPN for giving me the opportunity to be an affiliate. Let me know what you guys think down below. Do you see the similarities? If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like the video, subscribe, share it with your friends, and comment, as these all help my channel grow. Stay tuned for the Season 4 videos I have planned for in the future. Shout out to my Twitch subscribers and YouTube members, I appreciate the support. If you'd like to directly support the channel, consider becoming a member and enjoy perks such as behind the scenes updates, access to the VIP Discord, shoutouts and videos, and more. Thanks for watching, stay beautiful, stay awesome, and we'll catch you around next time.